Hello. The Torah portion this week tells us about Korach. Korach, the rebel. Korach, the bad guy. Korach, who dared to challenge the authority of Moses. What can we say about Korach in these free and democratic United States in the early part of the 21st century? First, the story. Moses appoints his own brother high priest and his own cousin chief Levite. Korach, a Levite, wanted that last position. Angry at what appears to be a clear case of nepotism, and because of what he sees as a one-man show, Korach assembles 250 distinguished leaders of Israel, and together they confront Moses and Aaron. They tell them, quote, "You take too much upon yourselves. All of us here are holy, every one of us, and God is among us. Why then do you raise yourselves above everyone else?" Unquote. In other words, as the Midrash expounds, every one of us heard God's commandments at Sinai, so we are all equal in God's sight. If you alone had heard God's, you could have claimed superiority. But since we all heard God, you cannot. Who elected you? Who appointed you? When did you ever consult us on anything? What gives you the right to lord it over us? Some of us have other ideas on what to do next. Do we not have a say in the matter? We're all in dire straits here in the deserts. Do we not have the right to decide our own future by majority vote? Moses attempts conciliation but fails. The Torah then tells us that God has the earth swallow up Korach and his 250 immediate followers, and follows up with a plague that destroys 14,700 more followers at large. Yet we, as modern-day Americans, certainly resonate to Korach's argument. We hold that all people are equal. We require our leaders to be elected by the people. We insist that power be shared among three independent branches of government. We're about to celebrate these principles in a few weeks on the 4th of July. More to the point, we as Jews have never taken kindly to authority from any source. We like to argue, to debate, to dispute, and that is the foundation of our success. Abraham argued with God. Tevye in the musical Fiddler on the Roof argued with God. Every page of the Talmud is filled with disagreements among rabbis. Demolishing conventional wisdom is a Jewish pastime and the source of many Jewish accomplishments. We take the second commandment seriously. You shall not make unto thee any graven image. You shall have no idols. This means no idols of wood and stone, but it also means no idols of the mind. We are an iconoclastic people. We like to break idols. The story is told of a new rabbi who comes to serve a well-established congregation. Every week on Shabbat, when it comes time to recite the Shema, half the congregation stands and the other half sits. The half who stands say, "We stand for the Shema. It's the creed of Judaism. Thousands of Jews have died with the Shema on their lips." The half who remain seated say, "No, the Shema is just another part of the service." This drives the new rabbi crazy. One day he learns that the last founding member of the congregation is a 98-year-old man who lives in a nearby nursing home. So the board appoints a delegation of 3 to go visit him, one who stands for the Shema, one who sits, and the rabbi himself. The man who stands for the Shema rushes over to the old man and says, "Wasn't it the tradition in our synagogue to stand for the Shema?" The old man said, "No, that was not the tradition." The other man jumps in excitedly. "So the tradition was to sit for the Shema, right?" The old man says, "No, that was not the tradition." At this point, the rabbi can't contain himself, takes the old man aside and tells him, "Look, I don't care what the tradition was. Just tell them one or the other. Do you know what goes on in services every week? The people who are standing yell at the people who are sitting, and the people who are sitting yell at the people who are standing." And the old man says, "That was the tradition." And of course, you heard the one about 2 Jews shipwrecked on a desert island who built 3 synagogues, one for each of them to pray in, and one for each of them to say that he would not be caught dead praying in. What I find particularly significant about this story is that we Jews have always recognized the importance of having a full spectrum of views openly debated. That's why we always want that third synagogue to be there, even if we don't go to it. Getting back to Korach, what did he really do that was bad? Two things. First, he picked the wrong time to make his point. Even the most committed democracies can suspend liberties and even proclaim martial law when facing a severe crisis. When Rome was a republic, every time the enemy was at the gate, the first thing they did was appoint a dictator. That dictator made all major decisions until the danger was past and was not legally responsible for anything he did while in office. In critical times, followed the leader. Korach didn't. Indeed, God never says that Korach's point is invalid for all time. To wit, Korach's name was not blotted out in Israel. In fact, contrary to the impression left in this week's Torah portion, we learn later in Parshat Pinchas that the sons of Korach did not die. That's a quote from Numbers. These three sons composed 11 psalms, all recorded in the book of Psalms. Finally, we learn in the first book of Chronicles that Korach had a very distinguished descendant who got 2 books of the Bible named after him. Even Moses cannot claim that much. If you don't know who that is, I'll tell you at the end. More importantly, Korach's point was ultimately upheld. The priests, the Levites, the Sadducees, the Jewish aristocracy eventually lost power when the temple was destroyed 1500 years later. Today, spiritual power in Judaism is vested in the rabbis, who rise to their position thanks to their own actions, their own merit, their own knowledge, not by virtue of their birth. The Kohanim and Leviim have only ceremonial positions today. The last Lubavitcher Rebbe wondered why we allowed an entire Torah portion to be named after Korach, if he was such a bad person. He answered, Korach's desire for high spiritual office was in and of itself a positive thing. While the story tells us that we should not act against the will of God, even for the loftiest goals, it also teaches us that we should desire and yearn for the highest ideals. The end is good, even if the means are not. The second thing that Korach did wrong is this. The Talmud says, quote, every controversy that is for the sake of heaven will endure in the end, but one that is not for the sake of heaven will not endure in the end. Which is a controversy that is for the sake of heaven? The controversy between Hillel and Shammai, 2 rabbis who frequently argued Jewish law. And which is a controversy that is not for the sake of heaven? The controversy between Korach and Moses. Unquote. So the motive of the controversy is another factor against Korach. He was not trying to strike a blow for democracy or trying to understand Torah better. He was just trying to obtain personal gain. Let me now close the loops and not keep you in suspense. The Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, says that if you are seated when you come to the Shema during the service, stay seated. If you're standing, stay standing. And Korach's distinguished descendant was the prophet Samuel. Shabbat Shalom.